Welcome to the Bullpen. He's back. We have Mr. Corey Walker, commentator, Young Voices. Corey Walker is a spring 2022 College Fix Fellow with Reason Magazine, Chicago native, very accomplished brother. Good to have you back on the show, sir. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me back.
We are going to chop it up about two dynamics. Hopefully we have time to get to both of them. First will be the recent move by the Biden administration to forgive a certain amount of student loan debt, $10,000 or $20,000, depending on if you receive Pell Grant or not, and make a certain income. The second is the teacher shortage throughout the country. Let's first start with the student loan debt forgiveness. I don't want to presume what you believe about that particular issue. So if you would provide your sentiment, and I will then opine.
Yeah, so generally speaking, I'm against student loan forgiveness, largely because student loan, people who take out student loans or college graduates in general, I would say are the wealthiest portion of our population. I believe it's regressive. You're giving money to those who are already the wealthiest portion of our populations. The majority of Americans do not have a bachelor's degree or any sort of degree whatsoever. And so you're giving something to a small sliver of our population. And so I think that any sort of forgiveness needs to be given to those who are the most vulnerable, those who most need it. College graduates are just not necessarily those individuals. You're talking about 13% of Americans that actually have this level, have student loan debt. And the Biden administration, his policy was for anyone that makes under $125,000, which is literally 3 times more than the median income. So we have to ask who's just really helping. And quite frankly, I feel like this is Biden giving a handout and trying to buy votes from his constituents, which are overwhelmingly mostly college grads. Not most college grads, but Democrats tend to dominate with college graduates. And so it's a handout. And so I'm opposed to it for that reason. And especially when you're not dealing with administrative costs, which are why college is so expensive in the first place.
All right, so there are a few dynamics I would like to uncover here. So you're close on your numbers. It's actually 14% of the American population, not 13. But here's something very interesting, and this has become conflated in conversations. We're not talking about college graduates. When we're talking about college loan debt, we're talking about anyone who has decided to take out college loans in order to go to college classes. Well, the vast majority of individuals who go to college actually do not graduate college, the vast majority. But they still take out loans, dear brother. So you are configuring two dynamics that don't coexist. One is the average household median income of a college graduate, which is different than the average household median income of someone who has college loan debt, who went to college but did not graduate. So it does impact a smaller percentage of the population. Granted, you have 14% of the population will have these particular loans. There's a qualifier, as you mentioned, you gotta make 125,000, 120,000 or less to qualify in the first place with a few other variables. And you can get up to $20,000 of debt relief if you receive the Pell Grant. But you said something at the end of your commentary, brother, that I would like to expand a little bit. Why do you think student loan debt is so high? Tell me how this happened.
Well, I think a large part of the reason is that college has gotten so expensive to attend in the first place. Part of the issue is that we encouraged everyone to attend college, which quite frankly, everyone didn't need to be in college. I think that we're starting to see a lot of disappointing returns in regards to things like actual attainment and increase in things like critical thinking skills, reading ability, quantitative ability after college. And part of that is because we didn't need to send everyone there. Not every entry-level job needs a college degree. So I think that this inflation of demand has caused colleges to become more expensive. But then another part is just the administrative bloat. Like, we don't need to have 100 and something DEI officers at every school. That's part of the reason why college is so expensive. One of the schools I attended is University of Michigan, which is notorious for having I think over 100 DEI officers. No one knows what they do. Diversity hasn't improved at Michigan. All of them are making six figures. Why is that the case? If you're going to have college debt forgiveness, on one hand, I'm not supportive of that, but if you're going to do it, at least tie that to forcing schools to get rid of that administrative bloat, which will make college less expensive, because you're helping everyone that's already gone through the college pipeline, but you're not doing anything for the kids that are going to come through the pipeline. And quite frankly, those kids, I think it's projected that college debt is going to increase to the current day amount 4 years after it's canceled, because we're not doing anything to address why college debt has ballooned and why college is so expensive, which is administrative bloat.
Okay, administrative bloat. Now, would you agree with me that the reason why, and by the way, I am not a guy who says everybody has to go to college. And big ups to University of Michigan. I actually lectured there last year. I'm not the guy that says everybody needs to go to college. As a matter of fact, I work with technical colleges for skill-based training. But even those technical colleges, many individuals who attend them, these programs that certify you for AC, electrical, et cetera, they still have to take out loans. These are accredited programs that qualify for loans. These loans are lower, but they don't make enough prerequisite income in order to simply purchase the education, so to speak. So you still have that scenario. But let's talk about the why again, because I think you're close to where I'm going. Would you not agree that part of the reason that student loan debt is high is because the government is willing to back the loan, thus enhancing or increasing the cost of education universally? Would you not agree with me?
Absolutely, I would say that. Yeah, I would say that you hit the nail on the head with that one. I think that the amount of student loans that have been made available is a large reason why debt is so high. The fact that we have federally backed student loans. If colleges know that you can access the money somehow, they don't care if you can afford it. Like if you, for example, NYU, like a pretty prestigious school, is notorious for this. They'll make kids knowing they can't afford to go there, and they'll tell them to take out $40,000 per year in loans to cover it. And kids take out those loans largely because they know that, they believe that going to a prestigious school will help them in the future. NYU or many schools understand that these kids can access the money somehow. They don't care where it's coming from. They just want the money, and then they use that money to do a bunch of other stuff, like hire DEI officers or build, these like luxury dorms and fantastical, beautiful workout facilities. None of this has to do with actual education.
Okay.
It's bloating the cost of college.
All right.
So yes, but the federal government backing is a large part of the reason why we're here.
This is the reason why I actually advocate for a government solution, because we can both agree that part of the problem was created by the government itself. And I 100% believe that the cost of education has skyrocketed due to government-backed loans. And it wasn't a reasonable connection. So you have the cost of education too damn high. I say that to all of my college students. It costs too much damn money to go to college. The government is partly responsible, as you have just laid out, which also means if the government is partly responsible, then the government should have a partial remedy. And part of that partial remedy, dear brother, is to allocate a level of student loan forgiveness at the rate of 10 to 20,000. I wish it was more. I think it should be more. So that's number one. If the government is partly responsible, then the government should have a responsible remedy for their part in the bloviated cost of higher education. The second thing is, the same individuals who were hardcore critical of any level of debt forgiveness for individuals that make under 125,000 a year, those same people, all of them Republicans, received massive forgiveness for their PPP loans. Do you not consider that to be quite hypocritical for people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and others to go on national television, besmirch the loan forgiveness program for individuals that don't make nearly as much as they do, and at the same time, they accepted the forgiveness of their own government-backed loans?
I don't think it's hypocritical because the government forced businesses to shut down during the pandemic. Even many of these Republicans didn't want their businesses, their states to shut down. The government forced them to do that. So therefore, yes, they were able to have those things forgiven, but that was under the realities that the government was directly responsible for that. The government doesn't force anyone to go to college. They don't force you to go to a college you can't afford. I mean, there's other options. Kids can go to community college.
Sir, I got to say this, dear brother. You're incorrect on two fronts. Number one, the PPP loan was specifically designed for individuals who did not shut down operations. It was specifically designed for companies that actually kept and employed staff in the midst of COVID or the height of COVID, number one. Number two, you just proved my point. You said, dear brother, that because the government was somewhat complicit in what happened with businesses, they should also be complicit in the remedy, which is my exact point about student loan debt. If you admit that the government was complicit in why student loan debt is out of control, you must then, sir, logically conclude that the government must make reasonable remedy for what they helped create. Where am I wrong here?
Well, what I'm saying is that aside from the PPP thing, because that's like a different debate, but what I'm saying about student loans in general is that I agree with you. There needs to be some sort of government remedy. I'm not saying that I don't think the remedy is the same for both of us. I think that, to me, administrative costs need to go down. If you're going to give any sort of forgiveness, it should be concentrated to those who went to predatory schools such as ITT Tech or University of Phoenix, a lot of these schools that do target the most vulnerable people. I think that if you're going to have a student loan forgiveness program, it needs to be tied together with breaking down this administrative bloat. The same people that say things like student loan forgiveness is like anti-racist because it'll disproportionately help Black people are the same people that want to have all these DEI officers employed, and that's a large reason why we're paying so much to have.
Yeah, but that's not it, dear brother. The diversity and inclusion departments take up less than 1% of your overall educational costs. You can find that at the Department of Education. So that cannot be your problem. It's less than 1% of the overall budget.
I'm not saying that's the only. I'm not saying that's the only thing, but I'm saying that it's part of the reason why. There's a lot of just predatory schools in the first place. For example, university, the government tried to shut down one of the most predatory law schools in the entire
Yeah, but that's
country.
a different argument. I agree with you. There are predatory institutions. There are predatory lenders in the world. I get that part. That's a separate conversation than hard-working, decent individuals who take out a loan in order to get access to college courses. And by the way, you still make more money yearly if you have some college or a college degree than if you do
Absolutely.
not. That bears out in the stats. But let me ask you this before you go, because we have the next show coming up. Do you agree that there should be at least one, in every state, at least one free college option for individuals in that state?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a supporter of free community colleges. I think that makes a lot of sense economically. I do think that there should be some form of a free college available. And I think that there's definitely ways to make that make sense. And I don't think that it makes sense to have every public college be free for a variety of reasons we don't have time to get into. But I do think that there are ways to make certain colleges that are particularly low cost, especially things like HBCUs, schools that don't necessarily do a lot of research, make that free. And I think that would address college costs for particularly our most poorest demographics. Harvard and Yale and Michigan and MIT, those don't need to be free. But I do think that there are ways to make college accessible to everyone.
All right, and I just want to say this, brother, I'm a professor at an HBCU. HBCUs do engage in significant research up and down the equation. But I will agree we should have a free option. Even with a free option per state, you have to create a caveat in that policy to make sure you don't dry up HBCUs, because many Black folk would go to the free option because HBCUs become less attractive due to affordability. So you gotta create a policy that makes sense to not dry up our HBCUs because we need them. Brother, always a pleasure having you on the program, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, appreciate it.
All right.